Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is you're viewing this video. This is going to start our second week of the Five People You Meet in Heaven. We're going to get our middle section of this book out of the way this week. So, the plan right now is for me to get all five videos out and then just put them on one page. I enjoy doing these day to day for you guys with Tuesdays with Maury, and I would really like to continue doing that. But I think right now it's safer if I just get all five and get them to you so that you can kind of move at your own pace and you don't have to wait on me, because I felt awful for missing last week, that one day. If you didn't know, go back and check your OneNote. I did go back and do that Friday video on Saturday. I just, it took me a little while to get it to you. And I want to kind of avoid that if I can. So these are short sections to read, so the videos aren't really that long. So I think we can do this. I think I can get them all done today. So anyway, that's the plan. If it doesn't work out, I apologize. I really am trying, guys. It's as overwhelming as all this is for you guys, it is just as bad for the teachers, let me tell you. So, all right, so we had left off last week with Eddie meeting his second person that he meets, his second leg of his journey here, and it was his captain from the war. And guys, I am just about an idiot here, and I guess I could make a guess based on the math and the age and stuff. But I'm not sure exactly which war we're dealing with here, okay? And I'm sure they've mentioned it, and I'm sure it, like, the description gave it away or something, and I don't know why I messed this up. So I apologize for not being very specific here. But we read the first part, which is really an introduction to the character and the location, and now we're going to get the story that goes with him, okay? So, and this is going to be a shorter video because there is a lot of narrative to this. I told you guys that the second person he met, this section was a lot more descriptive. There was a lot more narrative. There's a lot more story to this. All right. So, and that's up to you to read. Okay. I just want to kind of hit high points with you. So we basically find out that Eddie, his captain, and several of the soldiers he fought with are captured in this war. And lots of good description of this. Mitch Albom, as far as I know, was never a POW, but he describes this like exceptionally well. They point out that their captors don't really know what to do with them, and of course they don't speak the language, so there's that language barrier causes even more tension between Eddie and his friends and these four men who, again, I'm not sure what nationality they are, so apologies. The way the movie makes it look, it seems like they may be Vietnamese, and this may be from the Vietnam War. I'm not positive on that, though, okay? So could be Japanese, could be World War II Japanese. That probably makes more sense. So anyway, they're captured, and you get to see this, like, how each of the characters handles their captivity differently. It says Eddie mostly seethed. He clenched a fist and slapped it into his palm hours on end, knuckles to skin, like the anxious baseball player he had been in his youth. At night, he dreamed he was back at the pier on the Derby horse carousel where 5 customers raced in circles until the bell rang. He was racing his buddies or his brothers or Marguerite, but then the dream ended and the 4 crazies were on the adjacent ponies poking at him and sneering. So again, this whole book revolves around that pier where, Eddie died and where most of his life occurred. This is a very sacred spot for him, despite the fact that he's really negative about it through the first half of this book. Like, he treats it as it was a burden. And you're going to get more on that later, so don't let me get ahead of myself. So he realizes at this point that they're going to be forced into labor. They're going to be forced to strip coal from a coal mine to help for the war effort for their enemies, which that by itself is a really morally debilitating thing, that you're helping provide materials that are going to help kill your people. But it also, coal mining is not a very healthy thing. So we know that these guys and they're not going to be treated well, and they're going to be working them to death. So we know that they're in for a lot of misery, all right? And we get that. And we get that Eddie at one point says this. He says, Lord, I'll give you these 6 days if you give me 6 days with her. And the her is, of course, Marguerite. And he says, I'll give you these 9 days if I get 9 days with her. I'll give you these 16 days if I get 16 days with her. It's like he's bargaining with God that, I'll do the time and I'll put up with this if you can just please bring me back home to this girl I love and give me some time with her. But, and I asked you about this in the questions, and again, those of you who watch the videos get a little bit more insight into this, and the questions are easier. But, and guys, don't tell your classmates the answers to these questions. Make them watch the videos. That's what I made them for. But then all of a sudden something changes. One of his comrades, a guy named Rebozo, maybe saying his name wrong, gets sick, and is shot down. I mean, he was going to die probably, but the four crazies as he calls them seem almost excited to kill him, and it's really kind of a sad scene. And then the really important passage that comes with this is it's the top of page 42, by the way. It says, after that, Eddie stopped praying. He stopped counting days. He and the captain spoke only of escaping before they all met the same fate. So that one moment, seeing his comrade mercilessly killed and these guys kind of mocking it, changes something in Eddie, and it hardens him. It's one of those events in life that kind of steal a little bit of your innocence. I'm not going to say this guy was an innocent guy. He's a soldier. He's been out fighting. We know he's seen a lot. Excuse me. But for this to go on, this just was a tipping point for him and hardened him greatly. All right. Then all of a sudden, a situation presents itself where Eddie's smart and realizes, hey, I think I can get us out of this. And remember last video when the captain asked Eddie if he still juggled, I told you that was going to come back. Well, here it is. That's how they escape. Eddie's trying to show off. He sees one of the guards juggling, so he's like, hey, let me show you how to do it. And he's juggling, and they've got these rocks, and they use the rocks to, injure or to at least distract these guys so that they can escape. Okay, so kind of a neat scene. Again, it's a pretty well-written area. I really think that Mitch Albom kind of moved after the Tuesdays with Morrie experience. He kind of moved more and more to being a storyteller with some really powerful messages contained in them, while Tuesdays with Morrie was more about the messages and you kind of built the story a little bit. But he wrote a lot of books after these too, and they become very narrative driven, but there's still so much power in the messages. So I want you guys to realize that. But there's really not much to discuss. You need to read the description here. So they managed to kill all of the guards. They do it kind of violently. I understand why, but I guess I think we're trying to see what this war has done to this poor man. At that point, actually before this point, Eddie and the captain realized that there was a bunch of oil barrels around, and basically they realized that I guess this area was about to be captured by the. I'm beginning to think this must have been Japanese during World War II. So let's just assume that right now. If I'm wrong, you guys can correct me. But anyway, he realizes that this area is about to be captured, and they were going to destroy that coal mine and destroy everything else because they didn't want the other side, the Allies, to seize it. So they had realized that they were about to be buried alive in this. Well, they get out and they realize that there's not a lot of soldiers there. There's not a lot of others, so it's set up well for them to escape. But they realize something on the way out. The captain realizes they're the last group left, but then they look at the oil barrels and they're like, let's finish the job. Let's destroy this area. Now, not a smart move on their part. At this point, you should be escaping. Get out of there. Second thing is you're just doing what the enemy wanted. They wanted to destroy this area. That was their plan. They were going to do that. But these guys are so consumed with their hatred and with their anger that this is what they can do. Is they can take it out and do this. Now, we're going to learn that hatred and anger has a cost and a price, and that's one of the messages of this book. One of the things we need to learn. All right, now the book very clearly delineates 5 big lessons, and it's in the section that says Eddie's first lesson, or the first lesson, and the second lesson. So those are there, but always be looking for other little side messages that you can discuss. That's what makes reading a discussion versus the passive experience, and we don't want the passive experience. We want this to be active. We want you to read stuff and talk about it. And you want to look at this and say, I've asked you guys before to annotate things and write down questions. This is one of those you should have written if you were doing that. You're not required to. But you could write out, why would they take the time to stop and do what the enemy was going to do anyway? They're doing their jobs for them. Well, that's when we could get into a discussion about rage and anger and how we take it out wrong, okay? All right, that's the end of the reading. All right, we're supposed to read to today is Eddie's birthday. That's this one. So, an under 10-minute video. Excellent. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and then I'm going to go ahead and roll right into the next one. So hopefully you'll be able to have several of these at once if you want to kind of tackle a section. Hey, there's nothing wrong with doing it day by day either, though. You know what you're capable of. You know when you're feeling overwhelmed and when you need to stop and breathe and do something else. All right. So hopefully you're enjoying this and it's less painful than some classes may be right now. If not, I apologize. I really am trying to make this useful to you. and trying to give you some positive impact in this crazy situation we find ourselves. So anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next video.